second scripture I'm going to read for you this morning comes to us from the Gospel of Matthew, from two sections in the 16th chapter. First is the first 4 verses, then is verses 13 through 19. Hear the words of the Lord. Somebody else would have had a marker in here. I apologize for not doing that. The marker is here, but it's on the wrong page. The Pharisees and Sadducees came to test Jesus. They asked him to show them a sign from heaven. He answered them, "When it is evening, you say, 'It will be fair weather, for the sky is red.' And in the morning, 'It will be stormy today, for the sky is red and threatening.' You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the appearance of the signs of the times. An evil and adulterous generation asks for a sign, but no sign will be given to them except the sign of Jonah." Then he left them and went away. Now when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they said, some say John the Baptist, but others Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he sternly ordered the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. Today we take a departure from the lectionary, and I hope you will forgive me this little sidetrack that we're on. As a visiting pastor, I got to choose the scripture for the sermon this morning. At first, I thought, I'll just dip into my barrel of sermons and pull out one that I've preached before. I'll tweak it a little so it's appropriate to what's going on today. But it was sobering reviewing my sermon barrel and realizing that nothing in there was going to do for today's message. So I did what pastors do and went into God's Word to find something to share. And two scriptures, the ones that you have just heard read, popped out almost immediately because each of them has something to do with a sign, and each of them tells us a little bit about to recognize what's going on around us. In the Exodus passage, Moses wasn't looking for a sign. He was going about the normal tasks of finding food and water for his father-in-law's flocks. Nothing was unusual about that until he noticed something off in the distance, and although he saw flames leaping high, he didn't see the green of that bush change to brown and the leaves fall up on the ground. So he said, I will turn aside and look to see what's going on. When God saw that Moses was coming close, he spoke to him out of the bush and asked Moses to go to Pharaoh to bring the Israelites out of Egypt. Moses first wants to know why God would pick him. But interestingly enough, God doesn't answer that question. Instead, he says, go, and I will be with you. And this shall be a sign for you, that when you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship me on this very mountain. Moses was not seeking a sign, but God gave him a way to know that what he was asked to do was indeed something that God directed, and that it was God's idea and not his own that he had dreamed up. For he would certainly not ever go back to that place where there was a bounty on his head because he had killed an Egyptian. A sign is something that points beyond itself to a destination or a truth about which the person following the indicator has no knowledge. In other words, in order to see the meaning of a sign, one must have an open mind, one that is not predisposed to see only one expected result. And that is exactly what got the Pharisees and the Sadducees in trouble when they came to Jesus. They came with presuppositions firmly in place. They had heard the reports of Jesus having driven out demons and even having healed the infirm, the blind, and the lame. And they had heard that he had the audacity to forgive sins. They were convinced that he was a fraud. And so they came with the intent to trap him and to show him up for the charlatan they believed him to be. Now these two groups, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, were probably the most unlikely of people to ever come together and agree on a single point. The pharaohs lived by the details of the rabbinic law. The Sadducees rejected all of that and would only pay attention to and follow the words of the Hebrew Scriptures. The Pharisees believed in angels, they believed in the resurrection of the body, and in the coming of a Messiah. The Sadducees believed in none of those things. The Pharisees were prepared to live under any government that would allow them to observe their own religious practices. The Sadducees were a small, wealthy aristocracy who were prepared to serve and cooperate with the Roman government in order to retain their wealth and their privileges. Two more different perspectives could hardly be found, and yet they came together in their mutual desire to get rid of Jesus. The Pharisees and Sadducees came together to ask Jesus to demonstrate in front of their eyes his authority by showing them a sign from heaven. In essence, they were saying, put up or shut up. Jesus pointed out to his challengers that they were indeed skilled in reading the appearance of the sky. But then he said, They were not so skilled at reading the signs of the time, meaning that standing right in front of them was the very sign they were seeking. And then he said these words, "An evil and adulterous generation asks for a sign, but no sign will be given except the sign of Jonah." Evil, with intent to harm. Adulterous, unfaithful to a primary relationship. A sign of Jonah? What is that? If you want to know what the sign of Jonah is, you can go back a few chapters in Matthew to chapter 12. And even though it's in a slightly different context, Jonah comes up even there. And Jesus says these words, "Jonah was in the belly of a sea monster for 3 days and 3 nights, and so must the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth for that long." He goes on to say that because the Ninevites repented at the preaching of Jonah, they paid attention to a preacher, fancy that. They will rise up on Judgment Day and condemn the contemporary generation, contemporary with Jesus, for not recognizing that someone greater than Jonah was present with them. After Jesus had said, "An evil and adulterous generation asks for a sign, but no sign will be given except the sign of Jonah," he turned around and walked away from the Pharisees and Sadducees. Not long thereafter, Jesus was with the disciples, and he asked them, "By the way, who do people say that I am? Who do people say that I am?" Did you hear the echo in that question of the name of God that was given to Moses? It's almost as though Jesus was asking if they were able to see what God had placed in front of them. The disciples reported the rumors and the speculation they had run across in the local news. "We have heard people say that you are a prophet, perhaps like Elijah or Jeremiah. Some say that you are John the Baptist come back to life." Then Jesus put the question a little differently and asked them directly, "Who do you say that I am?" And Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. You," he was saying, "are the lowercase I am, who is Emmanuel, God with us, who comes from the uppercase I am, the God who was and is to be forever the same, holy, loving, gracious, merciful, and steadfast." Then Jesus responds by telling Peter that he was given this knowledge not by listening to the things flowing around them, but by paying attention to what God was placing on his heart and in his mind. He didn't come up with this on his own. When we seek a sign, we are looking for something that will assure us that God is with us. But sometimes we put the cart before the horse. Sometimes we want to see only what we think or expect that we will find. Yes, a sign has something to show us, but we need God's help to find the meaning of what is right in front of us. Only God can reveal the true sign of the time. Those of us who went to Pine Ridge Indian Reservation met two remarkable teachers there. One was Will Peters, whose name in Lakota means teacher of the red way. He teaches the student at the public school on the reservation the Lakota language and culture. He leads the drum song at the beginning of each day, which takes the place of our Pledge of Allegiance. And it is his class that benefits from the funds this congregation donated to purchase beads and animal hides at the trading post as they learn from Will native crafts and symbols. He was also the one that you heard playing the flute in the video shown at the beginning of the worship service led by those who went to Pine Ridge. The other teacher it was our privilege to meet was named Darren Maribel. I do not know his Indian name or what it means, but he teaches math at the high school, and he shared the story of the white buffalo calf woman with us, as he does regularly with his students. And he showed us the stuffed white buffalo calf that was born in his father's herd of buffalo near the community of Pine Ridge. The white buffalo calf woman is a holy woman who came to the Lakota and presented them with the sacred pipe and taught them the ceremonies in which they would use the pipe. She taught them to pray and to follow the proper path while on earth. And as her visit was ending and she was leaving, white buffalo calf woman said that the birth of a white buffalo calf would be a sign from the Great Spirit to signal the beginning of a time of unity and harmony among people of all nations and colors. Darren told us that the stuffed white buffalo calf was born in the mid-1990s, but was sickly and did not live long. After that one had died, another was born a couple of years later that lived to be a full-grown buffalo, changing from a white buffalo calf to a red buffalo calf to a yellow buffalo adult, and then into the black of the full adult. Our brothers and sisters on the res believe they have been given a sign, and they are looking to their young people to make the prophecy come true. The elders of the tribe have endured such hardships since the arrival of the white people that their hope lies not in their own generation, but in the ones that follow. In the white world, we have just celebrated the 10th anniversary of the iPhone, that little gizmo that has changed forever the way we communicate with one another. In conjunction with that event, an article written by an occupational therapist came out identifying the silent tragedy affecting our children. The author said that today, 1 in 5 children has mental health problems, that there has been an increase of 43% in ADHD, and I don't know what those letters stand for, but I know it's nothing good. A 37% increase in teen depression, and a 200% increase in suicide among kids aged 10 to 14. Her conclusion is that digitally distracted parents are teaching children a sense of entitlement rather than responsibility, and modeling a sedentary indoor life that with endless stimulation, technological babysitters, instant gratification, and an absence of quiet, undedicated time. We must make changes in our kids' lives, says the author, before this entire generation of children will be medicated. It is not too late yet, but soon will be. We desperately need God's help to read the signs of our time. What do you see? Is the development of the smartphone technology the fundamental sign of this time, ushering in a marvelous new world? Or is the Native American prophecy of a coming time of harmony and balance spiritually closer to your vision of the future? Before going to the reservation, I thought that I was going to offer some help to their situation. But now I see that they might very well have something to teach us. Those two teachers are helping their young people connect with their heritage and inspire them to lead the way to a new future, shaped not but by what we know, but shaped by the Great Spirit for them to live in. I had to take off my teacher-preacher bifocals, clear away my knowledgeable perspective, and get a little closer before I could see what was in front of my eyes. Maybe these Native Americans are onto something. Maybe we should work a little harder to connect with our young people, connect them with us and with their heritage, and inspire them to lead the way to a new future God has prepared for us all. If that is our idea, it won't work. But if our efforts are God-directed, they cannot fail. Like Moses, let's turn aside to look at something that intrigues us. Let's take off our sandals, our statistics and scientific explanations, our wealth and prominence, and come closer to God with nothing more than our willingness to see and to hear what God will reveal of what lies ahead. Let's not be like those Pharisees and Sadducees forming alliances to rid the world of God's influence and insist that we are the only ones who can interpret what must be done. What's that off in the distance? I can't quite make it out. Perhaps it is a sign for this time. Let's step away from our routines, from our plans. Let's lay aside our concepts, our experiences, and open our minds to the new thing that God is doing. Let's be still and know that God is. Let those who have eyes see. The sign of the time that God is placing before us might well be